but I will agree, I would not defend that. Yeah, some of the comedy here does not land. And especially if you watch the director's cut where they have the extended scenes, you're like, ugh, that's a little cringe. All right, y'all. Merry New Year. Yes, 2025 has started. This is my first movie review of the year, and that is for 1996's Kingpin, directed and written by the Farrelly brothers, starring Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid, Vanessa Angel, and the great Bill Murray, who steals the show here. So I'm being joined by my main man, Dave, from Interpreting the Stars. I'm going to get to his thoughts in a second. So the reason why I wanted to review this film is because, when's the last time you seen a comedy that made you laugh until your side hurt, when you was crying, when your face turned red, where you just was like, when you're doing your ugly laugh, you're when you can't breathe. It's been a long time since I've seen a movie that had me like that. Now, don't get me wrong, movies that made me laugh for last year, all right, probably Deadpool Wolverine is probably the funniest movie that I've seen, but nothing that makes me laugh like the early Farrelly Brothers movies, you know what I mean? Like the Dumb and Dumbers, Kingpin, Me, Myself, and Irene. What else did they do that was really funny? Shallow Hal I thought was really funny. So, yeah, man, Kingpin, the story of Roy Munson, who was a bowling champion, was on his way to stardom and fame, and then he hooks up with Ernie McCracken, who is a jealous, inferior bowler to Roy Munson, but Ernie McCracken is supposed to be the guy, but Roy Munson is the guy. So he's gonna make sure that Roy Munson does not blow up, and he takes his hand, his bowling hand. And now Roy Munson goes down a downward spiral of drinking and grifting and just becoming a loser, pretty much. To sum it up simply, he became a loser. And he meets Randy Quaid's character, who is Amish, who has potential as a bowler. So he has a second chance now to live vicariously through this person, through Randy Quaid's character. I forgot his name. Shit. Damn, what was his name? Old man brain kicking in. But yeah, I'm just going to say Randy Quaid. Yep, and then along the way they meet the lovely, the beautiful, the sexy Vanessa Angel, who is also a hustler. And then here we go, our road trip movie. And if you notice anything about the Farrelly Brothers movies, is that is it Farrelly or Fairley Brothers? I keep feeling like I'm saying that name wrong. But most of the movies are road trip movies. Like, think about it. Dumb and Dumber was a road trip movie. Kingpin's a road trip movie. Me, Myself, and Irene is a road trip movie. You know what I mean? So they just have a thing for doing road trips. So that's basically the movie in a nutshell. I think it's one of the most underrated comedies, and I remember watching this with my father back in when it first came out. We rented it from Blockbuster, and I remember me and my father just laughing like we was at a live stand-up show. Like, Something About Mary. I remember me and my father watching both of those movies, Something About Mary and Kingpin, and I had abs laughing so hard at this joint, man. That's how funny it was. I loved it. It was hilarious. It was heartfelt too. So this time around watching it, I didn't laugh as much because, like David touched on earlier, some of the comedy did not age well. Some of the comedy does not work, and some of it's kind of cringe. But I found myself more invested in the story and the characters because I really felt for Roy Munson, especially how they kept saying, like, yeah, I can, getting Munsoned. So Munson was a term for fucking up or being a fuck up in life. It was named after him. So you really felt for the guy because it's like, damn, I had my whole life ahead of me, man. I was on my way to be somebody, and now I'm nobody. And he can't even go back to his old town. He couldn't even face his father because of how his life turned out. And then Ernie McCracken, who... if karma is supposed to mean anything, Ernie McCracken should be like, he should be done. He should be gone. But all the bad stuff that he did, he still comes out on top. You know what I'm saying? Ain't that some shit? There's no consequences, repercussions of what Ernie McCracken did. So it's a tragic story. It's a funny story, but then it's a story about redemption too, about how to turn your life around, how you can't, always just hang on to the past, and how you got to move forward, man. You have to, sometimes you got to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. But I'm going to just get to it right now. Dave, give me your thoughts on Kingpin.
Hey, what's up, Rashad and all his viewers? My name is Dave, and as you probably know, I interpret everything. Today, Rashad has asked me to interpret Kingpin. No, not that Kingpin, and certainly not this Kingpin. Instead, we're talking about the Farrelly brothers' follow-up to Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin. I'm actually really glad that Rashad brought this movie to my attention because I had heard about it. It was one of the two, yeah, I think two, only two movies that I haven't seen that was written and directed by the Farrelly brothers. There was this, and then there was The Heartbreak Kid. I was probably a little bit more curious to see what this movie was all about, given the fact that it was the follow-up to Dumb and Dumber, so they had a lot on their plate to basically just to prove themselves that they're still a great comedic duo of writers and directors. Now, the film follows a professional bowler that, after his hand gets chopped off by a couple of people that don't like him, kind of retires from being a bowler for obvious reasons. He doesn't have a hand that bowls anymore, but he still kind of works in bowling alleys and he wants to be a bowling manager. But at the same time, he's kind of a grifter, so he likes to swindle people out of their cash just because it's fun. He doesn't need to. He was always a great bowler that could just bowl and get money that way, but grifting is funner, I guess. He runs into an Amish bowler, if that's a thing, who is played by Randy Quaid. Now, I'll get back to that, but this character played by Randy Quaid is actually a very, very good bowler, and he and Woody Harrelson's character, they kind of go on the road trying to win $1 million by going to tournaments and stuff. This was a very interesting comedy. It's definitely of its age. Like, when you watch it nowadays, it just doesn't feel like a modern comedy whatsoever. But then again, neither does Dumb and Dumber. However, when I go back and I watch Dumb and Dumber, I have a lot of nostalgia with it. I can't just sit back and watch it and be like, oh, that comedy sucks, because that's not the case. Plus, I love Jim Carrey, I love Jeff Daniels, so there's a lot going for Dumb and Dumber that I love that I just couldn't pick up with Kingpin. And obviously I have no nostalgia with it either, so I was trying my best to look at it through the eyes of somebody that was watching it when it first came out. For me, I gotta say, Kingpin is kind of a mixed bag. There's moments of it that I actually laughed out loud with, which is a really great feeling to have with comedies, because sometimes these days comedies just don't hit like they used to. So there were certain things in here that reminded me of the humor and the brotherhood even from Dumb and Dumber, just seen here a little bit different. You can see it as Dumb and Dumber go bowling, right? But at the same time, there's a sense of humor in Kingpin that reminded me of Caddyshack. Now, Caddyshack was not really a film that I cared that much about. I actually found Caddyshack to be quite boring. Maybe it's one of those things where you have to watch it over and over and over again to appreciate, and maybe that's the same for Kingpin, but there was a lot of moments in this film where I wasn't getting it comedically. Humor. Bill Murray was probably the best and most organic character in the bunch. I love watching him in anything, and he usually shines the brightest in everything that he's in. Same goes here. I love when he started out in the film, he had this weird, afro, which is very unlike Bill Murray, at least the Bill Murray that I know. But he was great in the movie. Then you have Woody Harrelson and Randy Quaid. Now, like I said, I'll get back to Randy Quaid. I'm getting back to it now. I think that my main issue with the film was the casting. I love Woody Harrelson in a lot of stuff, and I also like Randy Quaid in a few things. Randy Quaid plays a really, really good redneck. I just don't think he plays a very good Amish dude whatsoever. There's nothing that I believed about him being Amish. Maybe that's the point, given the fact that he does go off and do all these non-Amish things like smoke and drink and gamble and all this stuff. But personally, I would have thought it was pretty hilarious if he had the beard and was doing all this as well. But he had this weird young look, and I'm not entirely sure how young or old he's supposed to be when he's clearly in his mid-40s, And if he's not in his mid-40s, I take that back, but he certainly looks like it. Woody Harrelson was okay, but from what I understand, and from when I was reading about what the Farrelly brothers wanted casting-wise, they didn't want Woody. They wanted Michael Keaton. And I would have believed wholeheartedly Michael Keaton, especially during this decade. This decade, Michael Keaton was funny, but he could be serious if he needed to as well, like Batman. And for Randy Quaid's character, I believe they wanted Chris Farley. And I can believe that based off of the hair they gave Randy Quaid. And I would have also believed Chris Farley as an Amish person. Well, not totally believe, but I think that he would have pulled off that character a little bit more naturally than Randy Quaid did. So my main issues really do come down to casting wise. I couldn't fully believe these characters in these roles, and if you can't believe a character in a role, it's harder to disassociate when you watch a movie, and if you can't disassociate, then some of that sense of humor is going to be a little bit dry, it's not going to hit as hard, and it's just going to be a passable comedy. And for the most part, I think Kingpin is a passable comedy. Like I said, there's a couple of moments where I definitely laughed out loud. Like there's this joke about, we don't have cows, we do have a bull, that had me rolling on the floor. Not literally, figuratively. And there's these little moments just like that, sprinkled on throughout the film that I thought were great. I think that it makes sense to be a cult classic. It makes sense to be something that you return to every few years, and every single time that you do, it gets a little bit better. I could see that, but as it is, my first time viewing with Kingpin, it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. I'm a fan of Farrelly Brothers, though I do have to admit that, they do have some winners and some losers. Most recently, they made Dear Santa, which you can see on Paramount Plus. And even that one's kind of one of those movies where it's just like, sometimes it's really funny, and sometimes it's really dry and bland. And I feel like it's the same with this, honestly. So, what do I score Kingpin? That's the question. I'm going to give this a C+. It might be one of those movies where you had to be there when it came out in order to have the nostalgia for it, in order to consider it a cult classic, because these are things that I just didn't feel while watching it. I'm glad that I watched it. It had some really strong jokes in there, but structurally, narratively, it's a little bit of a mess. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge. And for an adventure story like this, it could have easily been condensed a little bit and made to be a little bit more straightforward. That's all I'm going to say about that. But Rashad, thank you once again for having me be on your channel to discuss this comedy from the way back when 1996 I think it was. Very intriguing to say the least, but that's all I got. I won't take up too much of your time, Rashad, but I'm very curious to see what you have to say about this classic cult comedy. Peace out.
And there you have it. So, all right, well, bro, I'm glad that some parts made you laugh. And yes, I did forget that this is a 90s comedy. So, yeah, some of the stuff did not land. As far as the casting goes, I can kind of agree with the Randy Quaid character because I couldn't even remember his fucking name in the movie. But he was all right, But yeah, Bill Murray, we both agree Bill Murray is the star of this show. He really killed it. As despicable of a character as he was. And to come to find out, he did all of his own bowling in this movie. So Bill Murray is like a professional bowler. So all the bowling that he did, those crazy shots that he pulled, that was actually him doing that, So he really is a great bowler, and he stole this movie. And Woody Harrelson, he gave such a sympathetic performance where you really did feel bad for his character, even though he really wasn't a good guy either. And Vanessa Angel, goodness, I couldn't keep my eyes off her, man. She was gorgeous. And I tell you what, the part that made me laugh the most is when Roy Munson and his name, was it Israel? Damn. Anyways, they're trying to run away. They're trying to escape and run off without telling Vanessa Angel, right? And she catches them, and they have this fight in the parking lot where she kicks his ass. And I thought it was funny as hell because he's trying to play it off like, look, man, I ain't trying to get into a fist fight with a girl, but really she was whooping his ass for real. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. And how can I forget the hilarious comb-over joints? Those comb-overs were characters by themselves, yo. Shout out to Bill Murray and Woody Harrelson for selling that. That shit had me laughing till my gut was hurting. So, yeah, I give this movie, an A. For nostalgic reasons, I have a lot of nostalgia with this movie. Like I said, me and my pops, we watched this and had a great time with it. But I will agree, I would not defend that. Yeah, some of the comedy here does not land. And especially if you watch the director's cut where they have the extended scenes, you're like, ugh, that's a little cringe. But Dave, anyway, man, thank you for joining me in this video, bro. Until the next time we collab, I always like to see your insights on films and how you break them down. You know what I mean? And yeah, so that's it and that's all. What did you guys think about Kingpin? Comment freely below. Let me know what you thought. If you like and dig this content, hit that like and subscribe notification bell in the corner. Also, subscribe to Interpreting the Stars. The link will be in the description here. Tell them I sent you. And that's it. We out. See you in the next video.